Again, everyone, good afternoon. My name is Mike Johnson. I'm the pre-sales consultant for the Track-It team. Everyone is muted throughout the entirety of the presentation, but any questions that you do have at any point in time, please post those in the chat facility at the bottom right-hand side of WebEx. Again, if you'd like to copy the presentation, just email me at michael_johnson@bmc.com. Let me know you'd like a copy of the Track-It for multiple departments and project management recording. That should be available sometime this afternoon. Just let me know. And at that, I'm not really going to do any slides other than the opening slide that you see here. So I'm going to go ahead and share out my desktop. Again, keep in mind that you can post questions at any point in time in the chat facility at the bottom right-hand side of WebEx. I'm also going to keep my focus in the technician client here. I'm going to be digging into the back end quite a bit, and that is a requirement of the technician client. Now, the first aspect when you're going to use Track-It for multiple departments, and my build is set up for that, is to establish your departments. You're going to bring in your users initially from Directory Importer. You have a shortcut over here, and you're getting started over here on the right side if you're still using that. You also have a shortcut to users and technicians. A department or a team in Track-It is ultimately just a technician. So I've established a default assignment, auto assignment for most of my tickets as help desk first level, as I call it in my build. Now, again, all a team or a group or a queue or a department is in Track-It from a tech perspective is it's simply a technician with kind of a funny name, no username and no password, and a license type of none. That's key. When you automatically assign tickets to one team here versus another or one tech, you're going to want to likely notify them via email address. So if you have a particular distribution address, that's where you put that there. Now, once I establish help desk as my default assignment for most of my tickets, then I decide what are my exceptions. Facilities team here, facilities team in Tampa, again, same kind of concept. No username, no password, license type of none. This is not going to consume a license because this is not a human being that's going to log in and work tickets. It's just there for automated assignment. You're going to have a notification address there. That way you're going to have a distribution address likely notified. You can create location-specific teams, in this case facilities in Woodbridge versus the facilities team in Tampa. You could have an outside vendor, the RMA team, the systems or second-level team in my build. You could have HR or marketing, or however many departments and whatever individuals you want to utilize Track-It. Track-It is a good fit for any team or individual that receives requests for help, requests for questions to be answered, requests for things. In all cases, be it facilities or marketing or HR in some cases, and of course IT obviously, these requests are going to be submitted by individuals. They're going to be delivered upon by an individual or a smaller team of people. You want to track those. You want to be able to report on them. You want to enforce SLAs, potentially, and automated notifications so that you can make sure things don't fall through the cracks and things are delivered upon in a timely fashion. So the workflow for multiple departments is going to be the same. Although the work is going to be dramatically different, the same kind of concept as far as workflow is going to apply. So utilizing Track-It for teams beyond IT, or even multiple teams within IT, is a very good idea. Now, once you have your teams established in Track-It, now you need to determine, well, what criteria is going to make me want to assign to one team versus another. For that, and I'm going to stick with my shortcuts here, I'm going to move into the help desk. Now, you can always get into the back end, the admin console here, by selecting Tools and Administration Console, and it's going to put you right in here. And I know that skill routing policies are going to be down here in the help desk section under lookup tables. You don't have to remember that. You probably aren't initially. However, just remember you've got great shortcuts in the getting started over here on the right side, and you've also got great shortcuts module to module that are module specific over here. So a link to technicians and users and priorities and statuses here in help desk. From an inventory, it's a link to master items and users and asset types. Fairly straightforward. Skill routing is what I'm going to focus on for the second portion of our discussion here. So what I have done is I have created a default skill routing policy. All your policies are going to look similar to this. You're always going to have match criteria over here on the left side. You're going to have actions over on the right. Basically, when does this policy apply, and then what happens when it does apply? What's the action? A default, by design, you're going to leave all of the matching criteria unselected. The idea is that all of my tickets now are going to automatically assign to help desk first level, regardless of what they are. That is up until I create a second skill routing policy. The second policy will override the first. Then ultimately it's just a matter of deciding what criteria are you going to set to determine where a ticket gets assigned if it's not going to be assigned per your default skill routing policy. So the most common example I discuss is a facilities team, because that's the most typical second team beyond IT that folks integrate into utilizing Track-It. So what I've done here is I've created a secondary team called Facilities in Tampa. Tickets are going to be assigned to Facilities Team Tampa rather than the help desk team in my build, because the subtype of facilities is selected. Now, if the subtype selected is facilities and the user's location is Woodbridge, as in Woodbridge, New Jersey, now I'm looking at the combination of the subtype facilities and the location of Woodbridge, and now I'm assigning the facilities Woodbridge team to these tickets automatically. And I'm just selecting from the drop-down or type ahead, and you give each policy an individual name. So ultimately, skill routing policies are establishing the rules as to why a ticket is assigned to one team versus another. Executive requests, this is going to apply when a individual end user or requester is a member of the executive team and request is selected. In these cases, I'm assigning that directly to me, versus non-executive requests, which are going to be assigned in a different way. They're going to be assigned, in this case, to, remember what I labeled the policy, and I don't off the top of my head, they're going to be assigned to Fritz at any rate. HR new hires are going to be assigned to an individual, Mary in this case, because request and HR new hire is selected. So skill routing is going to ensure that the tickets that are coming in via either self-service web for your end users or via any other means, you also have a separate set of criteria if you're using email monitor. If you're determining by email address where you want a ticket assigned, you have your incoming email set up to monitor new emails and convert those into tickets, as well as to listen and collect email responses, either the automated notifications or manual notifications, so that the correct ticket is updated. For your new ticket creation from email, you're going to come to Help Desk here up under Configuration. You're going to expand email configuration. You're going to focus on email policies. Same kind of concept applies here. I'm looking for the words new, hire, and accounting in the subject line, and I'm applying a specific template. If a ticket comes in and it is sent to the facility's email address, in this case I'm on the server side, the mail server side, I'm creating a second email address called facilities@bmctampa.com, which will automatically forward to helpdesk@bmctampa.com. When that happens, everything's still ultimately ending up in a single mailbox, which I'm monitoring, but Track-It's going to read the mail header. What I'm telling Track-It to do when it reads the mail headers, I'm telling it to look for this email address. And when it sees this email address, assign that particular ticket that gets created automatically from email to the facilities Tampa team. Very similar to the skill routing policy I showed you earlier. Same kind of concept applies. If that email was originally sent to facilities, Track-It's going to read that. Then it's going to verify the user's location, and it's going to assign them to the location-specific team. So that's how you get that automation there. So now we've created your teams or your departments. We've created the policies that ensure that a ticket that's coming in automatically arrives in the correct queue or gets assigned to the correct department or correct team. Now, what you're probably going to do, and I'm going to cheat in here with the technicians, and I'm going to go up here to security policies. You're probably going to create some segregation between teams so that when you have a facilities team, they only have access to the facilities tickets. Now, initially when you go into a given security policy, you're going to see the modules that they have access to. Probably most of your teams are not going to be admins. Your team members, they may or may not have access to dashboard. Probably not going to have delete rights to tickets. Ultimately, their module-to-module security is going to be based on whatever makes sense for your organization. The assigned tab is where we're going to establish what a given technician or team in this case has access to and what they do not have access to. The idea here is that any member of the facilities security policy will be able to see and edit any tickets that are assigned to any of the facilities teams, as well as any facilities team members. So these are all members of the facilities team. I am assigning all of these people here via the Assign Technicians tab, but If I'm in the facility security policy, I have rights to edit Seth's tickets. I have rights to edit Julie and John's tickets. But I don't even know that Mike Beckett's or Mike Johnson's or Phil's tickets even exist. I also cannot see any tickets that are assigned to the help desk or the systems or second level team, but I can see tickets that have come in and been automatically assigned to the other teams. I could also edit any of those tickets. So this is where you're segregating. So we're going to create our team or queue, which is ultimately a technician without a login and with a license type of none and probably with a distribution email address. That would result in an email being sent to all of those team or department members. I'm then going to use either skill routing or skill routing in a combination of email policies to ensure that tickets that come in are assigned to the correct team. And then I'm going to use security policies to ensure that once a ticket is assigned, those tickets are cleanly segregated, and I can allow Department A to have zero access or even knowledge that Team B's tickets exist and vice versa. And you can apply that to as many teams as you have. So that's ultimately how we do the segregation. And if you've seen my demos, you've probably seen this, but just to give you an idea what this looks like in practice, when I click New Ticket or New Work Order here, as if I'm going to create one as an individual tech as a result of a phone call or a walk-up or whatnot, you'll see that my default policies have kicked in. This ticket is assigned to the help desk first level. That's the default. This is going to apply unless and until some other criteria overrides it. You recall that I set facilities. So if I select that this issue is a problem that's related to facilities, that'll assign it to the facilities and Tampa team. The subtype of facilities is what's driving assignment to the facilities team in Tampa. Now, if the end user is somebody that's in a location other than Tampa, such as Melissa here, now the combination of facilities and the fact that Melissa is in the Woodbridge location is going to determine that this ticket is assigned to the facilities Woodbridge team in this case. All automatic. Any number of different criteria for skill routing or your email monitor policies will determine and will set that. And that's ultimately what skill routing is about in a nutshell, and what multi-department usage in Track-It is about in a nutshell. You can get more granular here when I get down to the request level. A request for facilities is going to go to Chuck. A request for hardware is going to go to Danielle. A request for HR is going to Mary. Share access requests, these are again going to a team. The systems are second level team. Now I'm triggering a second team within IT. You may have a systems type team. You may have a desktop support type team, all within IT. Now we're talking about just IT, but different types of IT requests or problems or questions might route to one team versus another. Again, something very easy to establish and track it. Just determine exactly how you're going to do that. The good news is you're probably already doing this today, whether you're using an older application or whether you have no application or solution in place at all for any one or more of these teams. You're probably already alerting a team via distribution address. At a minimum, when you have questions as to performance after a period of time, you're probably emailing a manager or maybe even emailing the team. Or maybe you email a manager and the manager emails his team or her team. That's probably via distribution address. So a lot of the communication you've probably already got going on. It's just a matter of automating it and track it, and that's making you more efficient because it's enforcing SLAs. It's enforcing accountability via warning notifications when SLAs approach or escalations when an SLA has been completely blown up, or really whatever you want to do. The other thing you can do with different assignments, by the same rate, you can set different event policies and have different rules for different types of tickets. So an SLA for facilities might not be the same as an SLA for tech support or desktop support or systems. Projects might take even longer, which is a nice segue into project management. So I'm going to give you an idea of how that works and what that would look like in this environment. In this case, I'm just going to list me as the requester here, and I'm going to go ahead and select a project here from my drop-down, and we're going to drive that, and we're going to call it a development project. You'll notice I also have facilities in here as well, which would assign it. Actually, I should change that to facilities because that would make more sense. But development, by default, is going to assign it to the development or third level team here. And I have 3 categories underneath there. Now, I'm going to say that I'm going to be the one working this. I'm the one putting it in. So I'm the assigned technician and the requester. 2 separate drop-downs here. And then we're going to kick this off. And maybe this is starting up a new project to change things code, develop, and whatnot. Whatnot is one of my favorite terms. I like to keep things simple in my examples here. So let's say in this case that's all you need. Probably not going to ring true. We're going to call this in progress or whatever status might make sense. Maybe I list it as a project type priority if I have a priority there. Again, up to you how you do that. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save here. Now, what I've already built in the back end is a third part of workflow policy, and that's change management. The criteria that I've selected here is going to trigger that on this particular ticket, hence the pop-up here. Project development, that's the particular policy that's being triggered. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK and accept that. I have a project event policy, which gives me a long due date. The default is it's assigned to development or third level. In this case, I just reassigned it to myself. Now, in this case, our first two parts of workflow are where is the ticket assigned or skill routing, and what's the SLA and the email notification rules from an automated perspective and the automated escalation rules. That's the second part of workflow. Third part of workflow that will potentially apply to a subset of tickets is change management here. That's often used in projects. The project-centric example I use here is a simultaneous policy, one that often involves multiple people and then a percentage or of the whole of the folks that you have here as approvers will need to say yes before this changes to approved, and then this work moves forward. The idea is that you're keeping accountability, you're tracking everything. Folks simply click on an email that they've received to go ahead and go into change management and approve or deny. In this case, it's a simultaneous process, and it's a percentage of the total, so 7 of 10 need to approve. Now, I will ultimately receive an email, and if I've rambled on long enough here, we will see that email appear over here in my instance of Outlook here, hopefully under this section here. There you go. Look at that. Indeed, I've rambled on long enough. So as a approver, or end user, and your approvers are pulled from your end user pool. This is sent from my instance of Track-It. You can, again, decide to include whatever verbiage you want in any of your automated notifications. In this case, I'm letting them know what the assignment or ticket number is. I'm letting them read the summary here, current status, who the assigned technician is, 792, and that is actually not the one that I want. Sorry. Here's the one that I want. Track-It Development Master. Here's this newest ticket. Here's the change management policy. Again, you can choose whatever verbiage you want in yours. Mine's the default. You'll probably slim this down a bit. The keys here from an approver or end user perspective is you're going to have a hyperlink top and bottom. That takes me directly to that specific change request. I click on that link. Since I'm using single sign-on, the integrated Windows authentication, I don't get prompted to log in. I just go directly to the specific change request. I see the folks that are involved. I see the ticket summary here. I see the instructions here for this particular type of change. And again, those can vary based on which type of change it is, what type of change policy. Then I can either ask questions and request more information, or I can approve or reject. So as an approver, sounds good. Go for it. There we go. And I will approve from here. And again, my job here is done. It's been submitted, boom, done. It moves into my close request for change because from my perspective it's done. Still shows as pending approval because I still have more people involved. Now, log out of this and through the magic of cheating here, I'm going to go ahead and close out of my email there. I'm going to go back to my ticket here. I'm just going to hit save again, and you'll see that it is a change to approved. It's indicated that I have approved, and it collects my verbiage there along with the date and timestamp and who did it. It's also going to capture the same here in the audit trail along with all the messaging that's gone out on that particular ticket. And you can review any of that messaging by clicking click here to open this message. Fairly straightforward. Track-It is nothing if not impossibly simply named and labeled so that you can understand where everything is. Now, we'll pretend for the sake of argument here that this has reached final approval status. What you'll often do from a project management perspective is you'll change this to, it probably would have started on hold and then maybe moved it to in progress or scheduled or whatever makes sense as a status for you to move it to at this point. And even if you want to use status at all, again, all things in Track-It are really optional. At this point, we'll go to assignments, and we're going to consider that the master project as an overall is approved, and I'm going to manually create an assignment here that represents the next phase in the process. We'll leave this assigned to me. Dev project approved, moving on to phase 2, whatever that may entail. Again, we'll keep my verbiage really simple here. Everything gets a date and timestamp. This is going to be phase 2. I'll just tweak that a little bit. In this case, maybe I'm not going to leave it assigned to myself. I'm going to manage the master project here, the master ticket, the parent. This child ticket, the kickoff, this is going to be assigned to the dev team in this case. But again, much like the parent, this also has its own change process, and it must be approved to move in from here. Now, ideally, you're going to have additional notes here and indications as exactly as to what's going to be done, and then you can include either the summary here to give your approvers a basic idea of what you're doing, or you can provide them access to all the detail in that email. Again, totally up to you how you configure that. Then once phase 2 is done, I can create another ticket here as a child. Just click add yet another assignment here. Maybe this one is phase 2. Moving along. Again, we'll keep my notes here really simple there. Kick off phase 2, and again, you could have yet another change policy on each step of the way. The idea is that you have an awful lot of control. You have outside third parties sign off on it to ensure that everything is done in a proper fashion and it's approved before it moves forward. So it provides accountability for folks in IT or whatever team is running or initiating the project and external stakeholders. The audit trail is nice, and you can report on these either via the help desk tickets, the help desk grid view here, the formal reports module here from either a help desk perspective or a change management perspective. You can also, of course, run from the grid view for change management right here in the module perspective. And you could sort and group these in any way that you want here. If I want to group these by policy name, I can come down to the projects, which are here. Here's all my projects. If I want to narrow this down to projects, I could select project from here. Then I probably don't need to group it by project, so I'll drag that down. Maybe now I want to group it by status. So then I get a good look here. Here's all the ones that have been canceled, 115, just because I never follow through anything in my demo build here. Then I could right-click and print or export from here to get a good idea. Now, other examples from a pure change management perspective, HR tickets are a very common example. Now, I have some examples as trial tickets here. In this case, this is an example of a multi-part ticket, HR new hire for accounting, and its assignments don't represent individual phases per se, as they do in my project management, but they represent individual steps in the process. Chuck is going to be assigned this ticket. It's going to go to facilities. It's the add move employee request portion. No change management needed here. This is just going to go through. Other subsets here are the hardware purchase request. We're going to purchase a new machine, requested hardware there. That's going to assign it to Danielle, and it's going to trigger change management here. Here we have a simultaneous process. I'm going to approve before it goes on to Mark. If I deny this process, this change request, it dies with me. It never goes on to Mark or Melissa, since it's a sequential process. If I approve it and Mark approves it, then it goes on to Melissa. If Melissa approves it, then this changes to approved. And then something similar to the simultaneous policy I showed you for project management here. On this one, this is request access this share. This has multiple people, 3. 1 of 3 need to approve in this case because this is a simultaneous process, not a sequential. Well, hopefully that gives you a fairly good idea. I realize I talk fast. I realize you might have a lot of questions, and I believe I did see a few questions come through there. So I'm going to stay shared in a moment, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up my chat facility just in case. I believe WebEx has left the actual question section. No, they haven't. Great. So everything is in chat. Perfect. So let's see if I have any questions. Well, I have one at least at this point. And again, if anybody else has any questions, by all means, now is the time to throw them up there in chat. If you want to have a discussion, and very well may have some time near the end of the presentation to go live, although I do have quite a few people still logged in. But if it thins out, I can unmute everybody and have more of a dynamic discussion. First question I see here is, what if we had several teams or departments that we need to assign to one ticket? That would be where your parent-child relationship comes into play. I probably already gave you that example along the way before reading the question. That's exactly what I demonstrate here with this HR ticket. So I have a parent ticket here. It's just ticket. It has a green icon. This one's assigned to Mary. Mary is our person in HR who is managing this particular process of a new hire for accounting. The different teams involved, not literally on one ticket because this is one ticket, then this assignment here, this is a separate ticket. So this is ticket number 2. However, it's organized as a child or assignment ticket, hence the pink icon and the labeling of assignment there underneath the parent. So this one is assigned to Fritz. We have another couple that are assigned to the systems team and the help desk team for different facets of the process. In fact, 2 that are assigned to the help desk team. That was done from an automated perspective as a result of rules around systems and new hire setup. Actually, it's the default policy that's in place here that assigns it to help desk. So they don't have anything in place that would overrule it. And hopefully that addresses your question about multiple teams or departments on a single ticket. That's how you would do that. Now, it's also possible that you don't necessarily need a parent-child relationship and that Mary would work on a ticket, and then when she's done with it, she would simply manually reassign it to the facilities team in France or the help desk or whatever team she wants to. And then each individual tech that touched the literal single ticket in this case would have their notes represented by their own date and time stamp, or their own date and time when they added the note, and representing who it was that actually added the note to that ticket. So there's a couple different ways that you could accomplish that. And I saw at least one person join in late. I've kind of wrapped the overview portion of the presentation and have moved on to question and answer. If you literally just logged in, you missed most of the presentation portion, but again, if you check the chat facility, you'll see my email address in there, michael_johnson@bmc.com. Just send me an email address. Tell me you'd like a copy of the Track-It for multiple departments and project management recording, and I'll get that to you as soon as it's available to me from WebEx. Have another tech here, or another question here. Can you set up assigned technicians as regular and the backup? Really, you could assign to one entity. That entity could be a single human being, Joe Tech, or it could be help desk, i.e. a team. You can't really assign it to 2 or have some other sequence of events that would change that unless you make that a permanent change. In other words, when I show you the example of a ticket that assigns to facilities in Tampa by default when facilities is selected versus facilities being selected by a person not in Tampa that would assign it to the location-specific team. That's the way that you would do that. And hopefully that's answered your question. If not, please expand upon it, and I'll expand upon my answer. And I'm going to ramble on just a bit. I'm going to unshare, at least just for a moment. Assuming I have additional questions, I'll reshare and show you some of that. I want to quickly segue here to my last slide and point out a couple things, and then I'll actually show them to you here as we're going through. Don't forget about Track-It.com. Great resource. The Track-It.com landing page is largely marketing-centric, but if you click on resources on top, there's some cool stuff in there. There's also links to the other webinars that we have, and you touch base with with your account manager, which is probably where you got the link for today's session to begin with. You can get in touch with them at 800-557-6970. You've already purchased. You probably have their email address. I forget about demo.trackit.com. You already own Track-It. That's not really going to be pertinent to you, but if you do want an idea of what web looks like and you don't have it installed, you could jump out to that. Now to reshare here, I want to give you an idea of what some of these resources out there in the web actually look like here. Assuming WebEx eventually catches up with me here. All right, so we're going to go in here. Track-It.com, by default, you're going to end up on the About Track-It link here. Again, this is marketing-centric. There's some interesting stuff here. You can request information. You can view a webinar or ask to join a webinar from here. You have that hyperlink here, join upcoming, view previous. There are some additional ones that may or may not be out there at this point in time, which are recordings of previous training sessions. You could always ask your account manager about that. Resources tab is a lot of cool stuff. Click there. It's going to give you this. It's going to give you links to your documentation. It's going to give you links to some really short setup videos here. Customer stories, a bit marketing-centric, maybe about 70% marketing-centric, honestly, but listening and watching some of these might give you an idea of maybe what you'd want to do and Track-It from your perspective. Another great resource along those lines, Track-It communities. We're right here. Now, from your main Track-It site here, Track-It.com, community, click that up there, go to the Track-It section. Communities looks like this. This is an interaction between you and us, but it's also an interaction between you and your fellow customers, other Track-It users. Keith is a member of our tech support team. As I hover over there, it's Keith Scarborough, Track-It tech support lead. Vitali here, this is an end user, somebody using Track-It. Kabir, Roger, Carlo, these are all Track-It customers. They've posed questions. They're getting answers from fellow members of the user community as well as from tech support potentially, or even our product manager, who's Chris Coffey, who is right here. Actually has a proper picture in his particular profile pop up there. David Walters. Now, as you go through here, you see some of these that have light bulbs by them, and you'll notice that they have a count here and a little green active. That means these are things that are actively under consideration for implementation in a future version of Track-It. They're enhancement requests. This is awesome. If you're in communities a lot, you get to drive the discussion. Post, upvote the things that you like, that you want to upvote, that you want to see become future enhancements in Track-It, and that's largely how this process works. So this has 195 people who have positively voted for this, and this is active, meaning it's under active consideration. So communities are great. Also esoteric things like I have this situation and how do I do this? How do other people do this? Has anybody created this particular specific report? Would you be willing to share? User communities are great. You'll see in Chris's little pop-up here, he talks about Engage there. That was our BMC Software's retreat or conference for the user community. It's very beneficial. We had a whole day of classes around various topics within Track-It, and a lot of people after class number 1 were talking to one another as much as they were talking to Chris or myself about things in Track-It. Some people brought up some things that we hadn't heard from before because oftentimes our conversations are very short. So use communities vigorously. Communities are awesome. And at that point, I'm going to go ahead and drop out of this. We'll save changes there. That's fine. I'm going to bounce over and I'm going to look and see. And I have something else in chat, so let's take a look at this. Couple more here. When creating new assignment templates, how do users know what the parent work order is referenced? Oh, okay. So that's a good question. So let's go into this view here where I have some exposed. And let's say, for the sake of argument, that I am, I thought I had assigned tech on here somewhere. I do. Let's say in this case that I'm Danielle. I assure you I'm not Danielle, but for the sake of argument and sake of example, let's say that I am. I'm working this particular ticket, but I want to know what's going on with the rest of the process. There's no assignment tab here because this is an assignment ticket. All I have to do is click this button up here, right to the right of ID. If you're on an assignment ticket, just click this button here. Just hover over it. You see it shows open parent ticket. Click there, and it does exactly that. Boom. It opens up the parent ticket there. And then I can see the detail there, and I can even cheat in and sneak into the other tickets that are assigned there and jump in any of those. And at that, I'm kind of hoping I've rambled on long enough for everyone to get their questions posted out there. If you're still having a discussion and waiting to pose a question, and want me to pause a little bit more, go ahead and throw something in the chat facility there so that I know you're working that out. And I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my participants, who are still quite numerous. So we're going to stick with chat still for now. And I will go with a going once, going twice, going 3 times concept here. And I will wish you all a fantastic day. Thanks for your time this afternoon. And you all have a great week, and happy work in IT. Again, remember, if you want a copy of the recording from today, Michael_Johnson@bmc.com. Just remind me that you're emailing me to ask for a copy of today's multi-department and project management overview. Thanks again very much.